G'day, I'm Mark from Self-Sufficient Me, and the ingredients for the recipes that I feature here on my Self-Sufficient Me 2 channel are largely grown in our own backyard. So get those saliva glands running and let's get into it. This amazingly easy to make but tasty chili recipe has a cool story behind it. When I was in the army, I served in East Timor on operations when the trouble first blew up in 99-2000. Over Christmas we drove to a small village in the mountains for a humanitarian visit where months earlier their church was attacked by militia, massacring dozens of people. The villagers surprised us with a welcoming lunch, which was really beautiful, especially since they were the ones that were suffering. And we were there, yes, we had Christmas decorations on our vehicles and I think even around one of our machine guns. But we were also there to give them a sense of security as well around a special time of year, because most of the population over there were or are Christian. So it was quite humbling when they invited us to share lunch with them, and during that feed of roasted chicken and salads, all locally sourced of course, there were several homemade condiments, and one was this chili mix. So I asked the ladies who prepared the lunch how this chili mix was made, and through sign language and broken English they told me that it was simply chopped bird's eye chilies, which is a fairly warm chili. For those of you who know your chilies, they can get pretty hot, the old bird's eye, and it's typically grown in Asian countries. But this recipe also works very well with all sorts of chilies. I've tried them with ricotta, but my main favourite with this particular mix, and it's a favourite with other members of my family too, because it's not overly hot, although I'd prefer, well, I like the really hot ones too, but the one that works really well for us is the good old medium heat cayenne pepper, or even hot cayenne, because they're not super hot. So the recipe was simply chopped bird's eye chilies, or whatever chili you want, a good sprinkling of salt, vinegar, and a little vegetable oil. That's all it is. You can add sugar if you like to balance out the acidity, but I wouldn't, because it fundamentally changes the taste of the dish and it makes it something completely different. But it is nice in its own right as well. It's sort of like a Chinese sweet chili mix. It reminds me a little bit of Nando's, a little bit of South African type Dutch influence, but of course the East Timorese had a strong Portuguese influence, which is probably where this recipe came from. And you can leave out the vegetable oil too if you want, but I'd add it in because although it doesn't make a big difference to taste, it adds a smoothness to the condiment that seems to slide on the palate, for want of better words, much easier, and it does make the dish work well together. And if you want, you can de-seed some of the red ones, the hotter ones, or you can de-seed them all if you want it less heat. I like to leave in some seeds, because especially on the green ones, because that just gives it a little bit more zing, but you can just do it to taste. Chop it up really fine, use those knife skills, or get better at knife skills, and then just add a generous amount of sprinkled salt, couple of good pinches, a heap of vinegar to it, then a dash of that vegetable oil. Mix it in well, and that'll keep in the fridge for ages. It could keep for a couple of weeks, but usually I use it within a few days, and I can use it for anything. I'd almost put it on ice cream, but fair dinkum, I have used it for everything. Pastries, stews, sushi, fish, any type of meat. Goes particularly well with chicken. But yeah, anything, cold meats, hot meats, go for it. This simple mix, couldn't be simpler, is one of my most memorable and go-to dishes that I ever have made. Well, I hope you enjoyed this recipe. If you did, make sure you give it a big thumbs up and share it around. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now. Subscribe if you haven't already.